Chapter 91. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as Locke finished speaking, David and the other two looked at him. He asked David, "Don't you think this case is very similar to the case at the apartment building at number 55, Beaulieu Street yesterday?" David was startled, and looked at the scene in the bedroom again, and said in astonishment, "Are they similar?" "I didn't go into the room to see the scene yesterday." Locke then remembered that David did not go into the room to see the scene yesterday, so he said, "These two cases should be done by the same murderer, both are very clean." Wei Luan lost his voice and said, "Locke, you call this clean? The body is like a sieve, and there is a pool of feces and urine." Locke raised his eyebrows and explained, "I mean the traces of the murderer. There are almost no traces of the murderer at this scene, just like the scene yesterday. Also, the time when the murderer committed the crime is also very similar, that he is a master of traceology and forensic medicine L3, and he can see things that normal people can't see. In addition to the traces at the scene, he can roughly infer the time of death of the deceased by the color of the blood, the range of flow, and the smell of the deceased's excrement. Whether it was the alias Ryan Hollis or Mr. Thomas, the time of death was between 3 and 4 in the morning, he was basically sure that it was the same person who did it. The reason why Ryan Hollis died peacefully was either because the murderer knew him or he cooperated with the murderer, and Mr. Thomas was obviously tortured before his death. He even suspected that he might have been given a drug like truth serum. Superintendent Mona asked, "Locke, are you sure?" Locke nodded and said, "Yes, the case yesterday was later transferred to the FBI by the CIA." Superintendent Mona made a decision quickly and ordered, "Wei Luan, go set up a cordon for the whole house. David, go record a detailed statement for Ms. Caroline. Locke, come with me to report to Captain Davis." After Wei Luan and David led Caroline Brown downstairs, Superintendent Mona asked, "Tell me about the case yesterday." There was no need to hide it now. Locke repeated the case of the apartment building at number 55, Beaulieu Street yesterday to Superintendent Mona. After listening, she frowned and said, "So, this Mr. Thomas may also be a retired employee of the CIA?" Locke nodded and said, "It is very likely, but it may also be a special witness. Whether it is the CIA, FBI, or LAPD, sometimes in order to protect witnesses, they will give witnesses a new identity. An old man like Ryan Hollis who lives in an old apartment is more suitable for the identity of a retired CIA agent, while Mr. Thomas, although living alone, lives in a single-family villa in a much better location, which is much better than Ryan Hollis." Superintendent Mona shrugged and said coldly, "No matter who he is, I really want to know what the CIA has done. How many more people will this murderer kill? If it is an accidental case, then the CIA will take it over, but once it is a serial murder case, it may affect the social security of Los Angeles, so the LAPD will consider the safety interests of Los Angeles citizens." Superintendent Mona immediately called Anna Davis and reported the situation. After hearing this, Anna Davis asked Mona to give the phone to Locke, and talk to Locke for a few more words, asking him to verify his judgment. After getting a positive answer, she said she would come right away. After hanging up the phone, Superintendent Mona asked, "Locke, is this killer very powerful?" The novel was taken from the Rawlers website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Locke nodded. "Yesterday, Tom Williams had no clue at all." Superintendent Mona smiled narrowly. "What about you? You want to be a detective who surpasses Captain Tom." Locke was stunned. He didn't know how this sentence was spread, but he was not embarrassed. This was his real thought. He shrugged, "It's hard to say. I didn't look at the scene carefully, and the information I can get is limited." Superintendent Mona's expression moved, but in the end she didn't ask Locke to check the scene. The procedure is the procedure. Locke is now just a patrolman. In less than 5 minutes, 5 or 6 cars from the Wilshire Police Department came together. In addition to the patrolman and Anna Davis who came to support, the detective team also came. After the meeting, Anna Davis said the first thing, "The robbery and murder division will be here soon. If you have any additional information, please tell me." Superintendent Mona held the transcript that David had just recorded for Ms. Caroline and reported, "The deceased was the lover of the reporter, Ms. Caroline, so she had the key to the house here. She called the deceased, but the deceased did not answer, so she came to check. After hearing Superintendent Mona's report, Locke gave David a thumbs up. It was obvious that the woman's previous lies had been exposed by David, so she had to reveal the true relationship. I want to treat my single neighbor to freshly baked goods, but it's better to treat him to steamed buns. Anna went upstairs and came down quickly. Locke was a little curious. What if the CIA comes again? Soon, the people from the robbery and murder division came. Tom Williams from the same team came, and there were still a lot of people. This time, Tom Williams did not pretend not to see Locke. After greeting Anna and Captain Jones, he did not rush up, but asked William from the forensic department to take people up first. He went straight to Locke and asked, "Officer, why do you think this case and yesterday's case were done by the same person?" "Yes, it seems that this guy is neurotic, but he is a person who is willing to accept defeat. This attitude is very correct." Locke did not hesitate and replied, "The scene is as clean as yesterday." "Is this reason enough?" Tom Williams' eyes flashed and nodded. "Enough, absolutely enough. In such a short time, in the same area, there are two such clean scenes. The murderer is indeed very likely to be the same person." Tom Williams turned to Anna Davis and said solemnly, "Captain, it's up to you next." Locke watched Tom Williams walk into the room, and couldn't help but wonder in his heart, if this case is not transferred to the CIA or FBI, can Tom Williams really catch the murderer? Of course, he was also thinking to himself, if it were him, could he catch this murderer? "Here it comes," Captain Jones suddenly said, and Locke immediately followed his gaze and looked over. A black Chevrolet Suburban slowly drove over. Locke couldn't help but be a little curious and asked, "How did they know about this case so quickly?" Superintendent Mona replied, "LAPD is also within their monitoring range. Once the keywords they set appear in the system, they will know what happened." Locke suddenly realized that the address should be exposed. The apartment building at 55, Below Street and 18, Sunset Avenue are both CIA locations, and they should have set up early warnings. The Suburban stopped outside the cordon, and it was still the two CIA agents from yesterday, wearing the same suits and sunglasses, full of pretense. Jamie Howard, who was walking in front, showed his ID to the patrol officer outside and was immediately let in. Jamie Howard's eyes quickly fell on Locke and David, but then he was attracted by Anna Davis's police rank and his steps could not help but pause. LAPD second-class supervisor rank. That he turned his head and looked at the detective next to him, then walked over and took the initiative to greet him. "Captain, I am Jamie Howard, a senior CIA agent." Chapter 92. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Anna Davis interrupted Jamie Howard directly. "Anna Davis, the chief of the Wilshire Police Department, we talked on the phone yesterday." Jamie Howard glanced at Locke and was impressed by this handsome face. He immediately thought of the bad impression he had when he talked to Anna Davis on the phone yesterday. He turned his head to look at his colleague next to him. Seeing that the other party was not going to speak, he continued, "Captain Davis, the deceased is a secret witness of the CIA. Since the CIA has no law enforcement power in the country, we hope that the FBI will take over this case." "The FBI is already on the way," Anna Davis said seriously. "Agent Howard, 2 people died in my jurisdiction for 2 consecutive days. They are all related to the CIA. We don't even know the identity of the deceased. The LAPD is planning to formally negotiate with the CIA. We hope that the CIA can provide relevant information." Jamie Howard was stunned. He didn't expect Anna Davis to be so disrespectful to the CIA. He turned his head again to look at his colleague next to him. The obviously younger CIA agent next to him had to speak up, and he also showed his ID. "Captain Davis, hello, I am Will Lewis, Supervisory Special Agent of the CIA, can we chat alone?" Locke looked at Will Lewis in surprise. He didn't expect that the man who had been silent all the time was Jamie Howard's superior. No wonder Jamie Howard always looked at him. Soon Anna Davis and Will Lewis walked aside. Locke couldn't help but look over out of curiosity. Now his lip reading is already L2, as long as he wants, he can quickly recognize what the two are saying. Anna Davis said righteously, "CIA must share the information of the deceased with LAPD and inform them of the risks ahead." Will Lewis refused. this information involves national security, and LAPD has no authority to know this information. Anna Davis asked, "You put Los Angeles in danger, can you guarantee that there will be no similar murders next time?" Will Lewis remained silent and advised, "Captain Davis, I still suggest that this case continue to be handled by the FBI." Anna Davis refused. "Since the CIA can't provide any information, then this case will be handled by LAPD. Investigate, LAPD must consider the safety of Los Angeles citizens." Will Lewis's face began to become a little embarrassed. "Without our information support, LAPD can't find the murderer, even LAPD Detective Tom Williams can't do it. You don't know what kind of murderer you are facing." Anna Davis's face also sank. "Since the CIA knows who the murderer is, why doesn't it issue a wanted order? How many more people will die next?" Finally, the two parted unhappily. Anna Davis said that LAPD has been negotiating with the CIA, and she will not transfer the case without a notice. Will Lewis saw that he couldn't convince Anna, so he had to give up. Locke was very excited watching from the side. Anna was so awesome. She dared to confront the CIA like this, tit for tat, but then he thought that the law enforcement agencies in the United States are relatively independent, not a superior-subordinate relationship. LAPD is, to some extent, a security company hired by the Los Angeles city government, responsible for maintaining public security in Los Angeles. LAPD really only needs to serve the citizens of Los Angeles well. Protecting and serving the citizens of Los Angeles well is the LAPD's police training. At this time, the FBI also came, a team of 6 black Escalades, but because Anna Davis did not agree to transfer the case, the FBI people were blocked outside and did not come in, and only 2 senior agents were allowed in. Will Lewis immediately went up, hoping that the FBI would come forward to negotiate with the LAPD again, but he obviously overestimated the relationship between the CIA and the FBI, and this proposal was sternly rejected by the FBI. They were just following orders. The CIA could not get the right to investigate the case, which was none of their business. A group of patrolmen from the Wilshire Police Department stood aside and ate melons. Superintendent Mona sighed, "There are not many scenes like this." David also echoed, "Indeed, I have been a policeman for more than 20 years, and I have only seen such scenes a few times." Wei Luan also praised, "Captain is so cool." It is indeed a rare scene to be able to bring together people from the 3 major law enforcement agencies of CIA, FBI, and LAPD at the same time. The CIA, in particular, rarely appears at domestic crime scenes, and Anna Davis this time. Locke blocked both the CIA and the FBI outside, which made the LAPD proud. Locke did not eat melons with David and the others. His mind was working at high speed. He made some deductions based on the information he just got from Will Lewis. Assuming that the murderer was also a CIA agent, why did he kill the retired logistics agent and the secret witness? The first conclusion he came to was that an agent inside the CIA had defected, and this agent had a deep hatred for the CIA. Locke turned his head and found that Sophia was standing behind him at some point. Sophia said with a strange expression, "Captain Tom wants to invite you to go up and have a chat. Come again?" Locke seemed to have sensed something. He looked up and found that Tom Williams was standing by the window on the 2nd floor looking downstairs. I don't know if it was intentional. This guy didn't look at him and Sophia, but stared at the CIA and FBI who were negotiating something. Seeing Locke frowning, Sophia hurriedly said, "Don't worry, he really wants to talk to you this time." On the 2nd floor, Dean Dyson and Black Jimmy stood aside and were busy on the phone. I don't know if it was because it was too smelly. Except for the forensic personnel, they did not stay in the bedroom this time. Locke followed Sophia to Tang Long Williams. This guy was already sitting upright on the chair by the window. There was an iron tea table in front of him. If there were tea and snacks, he might drink tea leisurely. Tom Williams said to Locke, "You are right. It was indeed done by the same person. The scene was as clean as yesterday." Hearing Tom Williams talking to him in a normal tone, Locke was a little uncomfortable. He asked, "Did you gain anything?" Tom Williams nodded, looked at Sophia, and motioned her to speak. Sophia showed a helpless look and said, "This time he tortured the deceased and revealed a lot of information on the body." The body was stabbed 23 times, but these were not fatal. The real fatality was the bullet shot into the forehead. The bullet has been found, just like yesterday. We speculate that the murderer is not a simple killer, but more like a professional agent. Whether it is torture or shooting the head, it is a professional agent's method. After Sophia finished speaking, Tom Williams suddenly asked, "What did the CIA big shot say just now?" The CIA's supervisory special agent is already a middle-level CIA, and above him is the agent supervisor. He is indeed a big shot. Locke looked at Tom Williams hesitantly, frowning and saying, "He was talking to Captain Davis, how would I know?" Tom Williams' mouth spilled an inexplicable smile, and asked Sophia, "You believe he's a good actor now, right?" Sophia stared at Locke in surprise. A lot of information flashed through her mind, and she said helplessly, "We know you can lip read." "Fuck. Damn FBI. Damn, didn't they say they would keep it secret?" Locke was not panicked when his lie was suddenly exposed, but just shrugged and shared the information he just learned from lip reading with Tom Williams. He comforted himself in his heart, thinking that he was just contributing to the glory of LAPD. Tom Williams' eyes flashed, and he said sarcastically, "It turns out that there is a problem within the CIA. No wonder they don't want us to intervene, and only dare to let those scumbags of the FBI clean up their asses." At this time, Dean Dyson came over, holding a tablet in his hand, glanced at Locke, and said, "Emily found the information of the deceased." Chapter 93. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing that Tom Williams did not let Locke leave, Dean Dyson continued, "We all know that the identity of the deceased, Had Thomas, is fake. Emily just thought of a case. Some time ago, the FBI was chasing the first-level wanted criminal, the Las Vegas Buffalo gang leader Harry Bayline. Someone from the LAPD compared the big data and compared the plastic surgery Harry Bayline. When he said this, Tom Williams and Sophia looked at Locke at the same time. Dean Dyson paused for a moment, and also looked at Locke curiously, asking, "What's wrong?" Tom Williams replied, "It's okay, you continue." Locke was already numb. Since they knew he could lip read, they should also know clearly the role he played in the case of catching Harry Bayline. He made up his mind in his heart that if he trusted the FBI again in the future, he would be a dog. Dean Dyson tapped the tablet in his hand and said, "So Emily also tried to restore the face of Had Thomas, but she didn't expect that she really found him. In the system, this person is dead. But whether it is this person or not, we still have to wait for the final DNA comparison." As he said that, he handed the tablet in his hand to Tom Williams. Tom Williams stared at the tablet, slid his finger down, and showed a thoughtful look. "It's the usual operation of this gang of scumbags. Even this kind of scum was saved. It seems that the murderer is a Robin Hood." His expression suddenly became cold and stern. Seeing Locke staring at the tablet in his hand curiously, he smiled sadly. "Want to see it? Here, as a gift in return for the information you just shared, we are even." Dean Dyson frowned and wanted to stop him. The level of this information in the database is a bit high, and Locke is not qualified to see it. But in the end he just shrugged and said nothing. "Thank you." Locke was indeed curious. He took the tablet, stared at the information on the screen, read 10 lines at a glance, slid his finger, and learned about the life of the deceased. The person in the tablet is called Furlan Alphonse, who is dead. He is the most famous pimp in Paris, France, and the boss of the largest human trafficking organization in Europe. His organization specializes in luring young girls from Eastern Europe to Paris for prostitution, and supplies these high-quality girls to wealthy politicians in Europe. He has also built a huge network of contacts. Sometimes, in order to serve customers with special requirements, he will kidnap beautiful girls from different countries who come to Paris for tourism. All the girls who enter Furlan Alphonse's organization will be redeemed by the customers if they are lucky after serving the excellent customers. Those who are unlucky will be killed if they meet shady customers. Some who have not served big people will be sent to brothels on the streets of Paris. To make use of their remaining heat and squeeze out the last drop of oil, because they have been controlled by drugs for a long time, most of these prostitutes are seriously ill in the end. After death, They are directly sent to the crematorium and finally poured into the Seine. It is conservatively estimated that there are at least 3,000 women who died in Furlan Alphonse's organization. Because it is impossible to count, this data will only be more terrifying. Even though Locke lived in a grey world in his previous life and had seen many unscrupulous things, he still felt his scalp tingling when he saw the crimes of Furlan Alphonse. This person's crimes are simply too numerous to list. According to the information, Furlan Alphonse died in a pursuit by the French police. During the pursuit, his yacht exploded in the waters of Monaco, and finally his body was completely destroyed. Obviously, this guy was rescued by the CIA. The CIA should have taken a fancy to the privacy of the powerful and wealthy businessmen in Furlan Alphonse's hands, so they rescued him. Or maybe Furlan Alphonse was a CIA member from the beginning. Locke calmed down and asked, "Are you sure Hard Thomas is Furlan Alphonse?" He had seen Hard Thomas's body before, and the body was lowered, so he did not see his face. Tom Williams had regained his composure, and stood up and said, "You can go and have a look. After all, you have experience in this area." Locke nodded, returned the tablet to Dean Dyson, and said to Sophia, "Please give me 2 pairs of gloves." Sophia was waiting to see the information on the tablet, but after hearing Locke's words, she had to turn around and ask the forensic personnel for 2 pairs of latex gloves, and gave him a Honeywell N95 mask. After giving the gloves and mask to Locke, she was stunned for a moment. Why do I listen to this guy so much? Is it because he is handsome? Locke put on the gloves and mask slowly, and then walked into the bedroom. Hard Thomas's body had been taken down from the rattan chair and was lying on a body bag. Tom Williams watched Locke walk into the bedroom with a suspicious look, as if he had discovered something interesting. Sophia took the tablet from Dean and was about to look at the information. Seeing his expression, she asked curiously, "What's wrong?" Tom Williams touched his chin and smiled. "He just asked you for 2 pairs of gloves, and he is not afraid of corpses or dirt at all. Don't you think this is interesting? He has only been in LAPD for less than 8 months, and he is just a rookie." Dean Dyson nodded and said, "It is indeed a bit exaggerated. Only William would wear 2 pairs of gloves." William Worrell was carefully observing the wound on Hard Thomas's body, hoping to find a trace, muttering, "The blade is 1 inch wide, thick on the top and thin on the bottom, and there is a bloodletting groove. What kind of dagger can form such a wound? Could it be a bayonet?" William looked up and found that it was Locke. He frowned subconsciously and wanted to ask him why he came in. But seeing that he was dressed neatly, Captain Tom and others outside did not stop him. They swallowed the words on their lips and changed their words to ask, "Are you studying forensic medicine?" "No." Locke shook his head and squatted on the other side of the body. Captain Tom suspected that the deceased had plastic surgery. "Let me come in and take a look. I am good at sketching and have some knowledge of human skulls." Plastic surgery. William hurriedly looked at Hard Thomas's face. The bullet was shot from his nose bridge. His nose bone was broken and his face was actually a little damaged. Locke compared Hard Thomas's face with the photo of Furlan Alphonse he had just seen. The forehead was almost the same, and the ears and the lower part of the nose bridge should have been cut. He reached out and picked up a piece of nasal bone fragment and confirmed that the nasal bone was cut and not natural. Locke handed the nose bone to William and nodded. "Plastic surgery, you see." Now that the identity has been confirmed, Locke didn't want to stay in this room any longer. He walked out of the bedroom, took off his gloves, and nodded to Tom Williams. "Plastic surgery, it is indeed Furlan Alphonse." Tom Williams' face was calm and asked, "Locke, do you believe in justice?" Locke was stunned, and didn't understand why he suddenly asked such a lofty question, but Tom Williams didn't seem to want him to answer, and said to himself, "Justice is a pile of shit, because it was given by those dogs." He stood up and patted Locke on the shoulder. "Remember what happened today. The justice we pursue is not necessarily justice." Locke watched Tom Williams go downstairs and turned to look at Sophia. Sophia shrugged. "You just get used to it. He is like this, occasionally saying some inexplicable words." Locke stared at Tom Williams' figure disappearing around the corner, and suddenly felt that this guy didn't seem so disgusting. Chapter 94. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although Tom Williams suddenly went crazy, he did not give up and transfer the case to the CIA. Instead, he followed the procedure and took Fairlawn Alphonse's body back to the Detective Bureau for further autopsy. CIA Inspector Will Lewis watched Fairlawn Alphonse, Hard Thomas's body being taken away. He asked the FBI to intercept the body, but the FBI ignored him. The FBI people are not stupid, they will not conflict with the LAPD for the CIA. Besides, the FBI and the CIA were originally on bad terms, but the CIA had no law enforcement power in the United States, and they did not want to give the CIA law enforcement power, so they had to clean up the CIA's ass. So Will Lewis went to the side with a sullen face and called for help, hoping to make the LAPD compromise through the high-level route. Locke also quietly walked to Anna Davis and told her the true identity of Hard Thomas. Anna Davis's face darkened after hearing this, and she glanced coldly at Will Lewis, who was on the phone. These bastards always do these disgusting things in the name of national interests. However, Anna Davis, who knew the dark side of the American judicial system, knew that there were many such things in the United States, and she had no way to deal with it. She knew even more clearly that this case would eventually be handed over to the CIA. However, knowing the identity of Fairlawn Alphonse, the CIA wanted to take the case easily this time, and it was impossible not to bleed. After all, if this matter was exposed, it would be a big scandal for the CIA, and the director might have to be replaced. Well done, I will give you another credit. Anna Davis patted Locke on the shoulder, turned around and started to make a phone call to inform the senior management of this information. Locke returned to David and others, feeling a little gloomy. In his previous life, he was a cold-blooded and numb tool man who didn't know right from wrong. The only extravagant hope in his heart was to leave the organization and return to China one day. Even if his memory of China was already very vague, he would always remember that it was his root. But now, he is in the sunshine, with family, colleagues, and friends, and he seems to have become a human being again. As a human being, there must be good and evil. Locke sighed and thought of what Tom Williams just said, justice is a pile of shit, because it was given by those bastards. He naturally understood what Tom Williams meant by this sentence. Justice has been manipulated by people. The justice that the public sees is what they want you to see. If they don't want you to see it, you can't see it. What's wrong? David looked at him with concern. Did you have a conflict with them again? Locke shook his head and whispered, the Detective Bureau has found out the true identity of Hard Thomas. This guy is indeed a secret witness of the CIA. Don't tell me. David looked alert and warned Locke, don't talk about this kind of information casually. Seeing that Superintendent Mona and Wei Luan were looking at them, he reminded them, don't touch CIA matters if you can, otherwise, you might not be able to get up that morning. Locke was speechless when he saw David's cautious look, but he finally knew why he had been safe and sound in his 20-year patrol career. This old guy is too cowardly. Locke asked David why he didn't apply for the qualification to use a rifle before, and David told him that without the qualification to use a rifle, he wouldn't need to rush to the front to attack. This guy deserves to be a patrolman for life. Soon Will Lewis from the CIA finished his call. He did not look for Anna Davis again, but waved to Jamie Howard to drive. He said something to the FBI and left in a hurry. Soon the FBI convoy also left. At this time Anna Davis also came to inform everyone to finish work. Except for the police officers who needed to rearrange the cordon for the house, the patrol cars of the Wilshire Police Department also left one by one. Those who patrol continued to patrol, and those who returned to the police station returned to the police station. Locke and his 2 cars drove to the Mexican restaurant one after another. It was almost 2 o'clock and they had not eaten lunch yet. In the car, Locke asked David, I want to take the detective exam. What preparation should I make? David seemed to have recalled bad memories, and his mood suddenly became gloomy. He pondered for a while and replied, you should ask Edmund and Teresa. I have forgotten it a long time ago. Edmund and Teresa of the detective team Locke is also familiar with. Seeing David's situation, Locke didn't ask any more questions and nodded and replied, okay. After a while, the 4 of them came to the Mexican restaurant and found that Randy, Elsa, Mark, and Thaddeus were still there. Locke asked in surprise, what's going on? Why are you still eating? Mark said, because there were 5 patrol cars at the scene, there was not enough patrol force, so we worked overtime at noon. Randy looked gossipy and clapped his hands and said, "Guys, come on, I heard it was a big scene, and the position we were patrolling at that time was a little far away, so we didn't have time to go over to support." Elsa and Teddy also looked at the four people curiously, waiting for them to share the situation of the case. Soon, Locke's order was delivered, so they prepared to eat and talk. Locke wanted to speak, after all, he was the youngest and had the least experience, but Superintendent Mona stopped her and said she would speak. Locke reacted instantly, he knew that too many. Mona was afraid that he would get into trouble if he said something wrong. After get off work, Locke came to Shushan bookstore near the police station. He had consulted Edmund and Teresa from the detective team and followed their advice to buy books related to the detective exam. After buying the list of books, he thought that he still had 3 study cards that he hadn't used, so he looked for books on diving and Arabic learning. However, Locke couldn't find any books on training after searching around. In the end, he only found a few books on Japanese bondage art. He was not sure if it counted as training, so he planned to go home and check Amazon bookstore. In the evening, Locke talked to Marion on the phone. He received a call from the FBI in the afternoon. The reward procedure for Harry Bellion had been completed. The FBI notified him to go and collect it. Thinking that the money would be given to Marion for investment, he asked Marion to handle it. He casually asked about the lawsuit of Mendez Repair Shop and was told that the indictment was being prepared and would not be formally submitted to the court until next Monday. After hanging up the phone, Locke was about to buy books on Amazon when Sarah Mendez called. Sarah notified the customized back seat of his F-150 Raptor arrived, and he was asked to change it when he was free. After agreeing on a time, Locke told Sarah what he had just learned from Marion, and then ended the call. Opening Amazon, searching, damn, there are so many books on training. Locke didn't understand, so he bought the best-selling one according to the reviews. After finishing it, he picked up the unopened Arabic beginner quick course and diving introduction and came to the sofa. After flipping through these 2 books, the panel changed instantly. Host, Locke. Lee/Rock Lee, level, 2. Strength, 11, human peak 20, speed, 11, human peak 20, endurance, 11, human peak 20, spirit, 12, human peak 20, skills mastered, pistol, L3 master 5 years of experience, rifle, L3 master, mixed martial arts, L3 master 5 years of experience, car driving, L4 mastery, rugby, L2 mastery, mating, L3 master 5 years of experience, swimming, L3 master, housekeeping, L3 master, traceology, L3 master, makeup, L3 master, forensics, L3 master, sketching, L3 master, microexpression analysis, L2 mastery, chemistry, L2 mastery, biology, L2 mastery, toxicology, L2 mastery, art appreciation, L2 mastery, computer, L2 equals proficient, cooking, L2 proficient, lock picking, L2 proficient, lip reading, L2 proficient, psychological profiling, L1 proficient, diving, L1 proficient, talented skill, language master, L1 awakening, equipment, storage box, 1 cubic meter, justice value, 1350, plus 800, attribute points, card holding, experience card, function. Card, bullet avoidance card. Learning card, training, 5 years of experience, knowledge about Arabic and diving appeared in his mind out of thin air, and he can travel freely in the Middle East in the future. It turns out that diving and swimming are really not the same thing. As Locke guessed before, Arabic did not form a new skill, but was directly integrated into the language talent skill. However, the talent skill language master was not upgraded, and the previous skill L1 upgrade only required 5 years of experience. It seems that 5 years is not enough to upgrade the talent skill, and this needs further exploration. Chapter 95. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After washing up, Locke took a Bud Light beer and stood on the balcony to dry his hair. After drinking the beer, he returned to the room, closed the curtains, and began to disguise himself. He disguised himself according to the appearance of an Asian in Grant's apartment. He just went to the balcony to observe whether anyone was monitoring him. The last time Tom Williams' surveillance left a shadow on him, and he hesitated whether to change to a room that was not easily monitored. I didn't expect that Tom Williams had such a sentimental side. Obviously, after knowing the true identity of Hard Thomas, Tom Williams became uninterested in this case, so he said some inexplicable words. Yes, Ferlin Alphonse is an unforgivable garbage, so what is the person who killed him? Naturally, it is a hero who eliminates harm for the people. Then what is the point of investigating this case further? Do we really have to find the killer? That's why he said that justice is a pile of shit. Poor guy, he must have seen too many dark things, so he became cynical and full of poisonous tongue, turning himself into a disgusting person. Half an hour later, an Asian young man wearing myopic glasses and a gray hoodie walked out of Grand apartment. Locke walked along the road for a while and finally chose an old Ford Focus. With L4's car driving and L2's lock-picking skills, the car was completely his, and he got into the car effortlessly. He was wearing a pair of imitation human leather gloves on his hands, which could not be seen without careful observation. Although the flexibility was not as good as latex gloves were too eye-catching. 20 minutes later, Locke parked the car at the entrance of the Trove subway. He walked into the subway and disguised himself again in the subway bathroom. He still had an Asian face, but his clothes and glasses were changed. This time it was a khaki casual suit with jeans, and his figure was also fatter. With a black Yankees baseball cap on his head, he came out of another exit of the subway and chose a gray Chevrolet Cruze, and then drove all the way to the East District of San Gabriel Valley. Yes, he was going to the Chinese area to buy things again tonight. It was better to change places, but he was confident in his disguise skills. Locke was stimulated by the case during the day, and he suddenly realized that he seemed to be too cowardly. He was no longer the cautious scavenger in the past, but he had the system's blessing. In addition to enjoying a new life, he should do something more meaningful. That killer should be a person who enforces justice on behalf of heaven. Such people are called knights in China. Kill one person every 10 steps, and leave no trace in 1,000 miles. After the matter is done, he will leave with his clothes brushed, hiding his merits and fame. If he knew what Hard Thomas, Ferlin Alphonse did, he should have killed him, just like he killed Avidya before, because these guys don't deserve to continue living. Thinking of this, Locke felt that his preparations were not enough. He still lacked an unregistered gun, or maybe he could get an automatic rifle. He also needed to buy some medicines and disguise equipment to complete a little, such as at least 5 styles of clothes, and wigs. It would be better if he could buy wigs. Locke was very curious about the killer. Obviously, the killer first found the CIA retired scavenger and learned the information about Ferlin Alphonse from him. So, will there be more deaths next? CIA retired scavengers must have a lot of information in their minds, and the CIA has placed secret witnesses in Los Angeles like Ferlin Alphonse, who is unforgivable. He is definitely not the only one. But the CIA should not be stupid. After Ferlin Alphonse died, they should be alert and transfer other secret witnesses. After arriving at the Chinese area, Locke parked the car on the side of the road, took off his hat, got out of the car, and soon mixed in with the Chinese people on the street. Mixing in with people of the same ethnicity is more conducive to disguise, which is why he likes to come to San Gabriel. 10 minutes later, Locke changed his face again. His face was sallow, and he smelled of cigarettes. He also changed his clothes. His temperament was completely different. He became fierce, and strangers were kept away. After upgrading to L3 Master, he became more and more adept at disguise, and his makeup became more exquisite. The name of Doctor flashed in Locke's mind. He wondered who was better, his disguise or the doctor's face-changing technique. He walked straight into the pharmacy in the alley, Hua Tua Pharmacy, as if he was familiar with the place. It was still the Chinese youth guarding the counter last time. This time he was not playing with his mobile phone, but eating supper, and the Colt M2000 was still beside him. He looked at Locke silently and asked in Chinese, "What do you want to buy?" Locke wiped his nose and said in Japanese Chinese, "Propofol, etomidate, dexmedetomidine, midazolam, fentanyl." The Chinese youth was stunned for a moment, frowned and asked, "Japanese?" He picked up the intercom and asked, "A Japanese came to buy medicine, do you want to sell it?" Locke was stunned for a moment, and immediately reacted. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry in his heart. Damn, why did he imitate the voice of the Japanese? He didn't expect this at all. He simply wanted to change his tone. It seems that he is going to overturn, soon, a voice came from the intercom, tell him that the price is 3 times, if he doesn't buy it, get out. The Chinese youth picked up the Colt M2000 and stared at Locke with a cold expression. You also heard it, buy it or not, if you don't buy it, get out. Locke could only continue to pretend, looking humiliated, hesitant, and nodded, buy, as he said, he counted out $3,000 and put it on the counter. The Chinese youth counted the money, then raised his hand and pointed upstairs, indicating Locke to go upstairs to get the medicine, but Locke stood still, and the Chinese youth frowned. What else? Lu continued to reply in Japanese Chinese, I want to buy a gun. The Chinese youth's eyes suddenly turned cold, and he stared at Locke with scrutiny. We don't sell this thing here, hurry up and get the medicine and leave. Locke took out $500 and put it on the counter, looking at the Chinese youth with a pleading look. The Chinese youth hesitated for a moment, took the money, counted it habitually, and said without raising his head, wait, go out, turn right and go straight. Go into the alley next to Chongqing Hot Pot, there is a Thai massage shop. Find Sister Fong, she said it was introduced by Hua Tua Pharmacy. Locke bowed directly to thank him, Ali Gadu. After that, he walked towards the stairs. Wait a minute. Locke turned around and saw the Chinese youth staring at him coldly, waving the gun in his hand and warning, if you dare to make trouble in Chinatown. Locke immediately replied seriously, I understand, arigato. Still at the staircase on the 4th floor, Locke took 2 black bags from a Chinese aunt again, but this time the Chinese aunt's face was not very good. I don't know if she knew he was Japanese. After leaving the building where the pharmacy was located, Locke followed the guidance of the Chinese youth and came to the alley where the Thai massage shop was located. He did not go in immediately, but stood aside and observed for half an hour. Compared with Hua Tua Pharmacy, which only had 1 counter, Thai massage seemed to be really Thai massage. The guests coming in and out, as well as the female technicians wearing sexy clothes and heavy makeup behind the glass door, all showed that this was indeed a place for leisure and entertainment. Locke couldn't help but suspect that the Chinese guy was fooling him. He thought about it in his mind, assuming an unexpected rhetoric, and then walked in. Boss, welcome to Pattaya. Chapter 96. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the vast expanse of white in front of him, Locke was stunned for a moment. Could this really be just a massage place? A female technician with her breasts exposed came up and asked in Chinese with an unfamiliar accent, Boss, is this your first time here? Are there any familiar technicians? What do you think of me? Locke continued to speak in Japanese Chinese, I'm here to find Miss Fong. Since this image has been remembered by people, he plans to continue to shape this Japanese identity, maybe one day he will use it. The smile on the female technician's face disappeared instantly. Looking for Sister Fong, I'll take you there. Locke followed the female technician and came to the door of a room after twists and turns. The female technician knocked on the door, Sister Fong, there is a client for you. A clear voice came from the room, ask him who introduced him. The female technician turned her head and looked at Locke, with a scrutinizing look in her eyes. Locke hurriedly replied, Hua Tua Pharmacy. Let him in. The female technician pushed the door open and motioned Locke to go in. After Locke went in, she closed the door and left. In the room, Locke saw a woman in her 30s sitting on a massage bed with her legs crossed, reading a fashion magazine. Although she was dressed like a female technician, her breasts were not exposed and she did not wear heavy makeup. Although Sister Fong was not beautiful, she was not ugly either. She looked very decent and looked like an ordinary housewife. She was also looking at Locke and smiled, don't worry, since Song Qing introduced you, I will definitely give you a discount. It turned out that the young Chinese man in the pharmacy was called Song Qing. Locke said hurriedly, thank you. Fong Jia was stunned for a moment and asked, are you Korean or Japanese? You speak Chinese well. Locke bowed and said, Agarito, I am Japanese. Fong Jia curled her lips and her attitude changed instantly, so you are a Japanese, what gun do you want? Locke thought for a while, it seemed that someone mentioned a gun to him, and replied, do you have SIG Sauer P320? Fong Jia frowned, obviously thinking that the gun was too cheap, and replied, yes, $500. As she said that, she pulled out a large drawer from under the grinding bed, which contained more than a dozen pistols of various models. There are Glock G17, Ruger P85, Beretta 92F and Colt M2000, basically all well-known brands. She took out SIG Sauer P320 and handed it to Locke. Very clean, the barrel is brand new. Locke took the gun and weighed it. He knew there was no bullet in the gun. He fiddled with it and quickly disassembled the gun. He took a few glances at the barrel and found it was indeed very new. He sniffed it twice and found the smell of gunpowder, but it should be the trace of testing the gun. The barrel was obviously made in a small workshop and the workmanship was a bit rough, but he had to say against his will, good craftsmanship. Locke started to assemble again, and finished in less than 10 seconds. He pulled the trigger and listened to the sound, and nodded. No problem, I want this one, and this one. Sister Fong stared at Locke in a daze, shocked by his quick disassembly and assembly. When she heard that he wanted to buy 2 more, she asked in a lost voice, what do you want to do? Locke's eyes turned cold, and a murderous aura arose spontaneously. He asked back, can I only buy 1? Sister Fong immediately shut up, realizing that she had said something wrong, and hurriedly took out the Beretta 92F and Colt M2000 that Locke had pointed out. After checking them one by one, Locke bought a few more boxes of bullets and spare magazines, and paid $3,000 directly. The extra is a tip, Agurito. Just as he left the room, Fengjie made a phone call and asked, Song Qing, what is the background of the Japanese you introduced? The other end of the phone asked, what? Did he cause trouble? Fengjie glanced at the $3,000 in her hand and replied, no, very generous, but he looks like a tough guy, and he uses guns too well. The tone of the other end of the phone slowed down. We don't care whether he is a tough guy or not, as long as he doesn't cause trouble in Chinatown. We are just selling things, who cares what he wants to do? After leaving the Thai massage shop, Locke found a bathroom and filled the 3 guns and spare magazines with bullets, and then put them all in the storage space, and instantly felt a little safer. After a while, he changed into the way he came, and went shopping to buy a few different styles of clothes. What surprised him was that he actually found a wig shop in Chinatown. Unfortunately, there were limited styles of men's wigs, and they were all black, and most of them were designed for bald people. There were many choices for women's wigs, with different colors and hairstyles. He finally chose a few women's wigs and planned to go back and modify them himself. When Locke left, the boss looked at him with a hot look, and enthusiastically sent him to the door, saying that they would communicate more in the future. He was stunned for a moment before he reacted, and he was immediately disgusted. Mom, what a look, I am 1.9 meters tall and 100 kilograms, how could I wear women's clothes? Stupid pervert, there are too many perverts in the United States. Locke originally planned to have a Chinese supper before leaving, but he was disgusted by the boss's eyes just now and had no mood at all. He found the cruise and drove away from the San Gabriel Valley quickly. On the way back, Locke slowly calmed down. Thinking of the big purchase tonight, he felt more and more confident. When he found a suitable target, he might try to be a knight who enforces justice on behalf of the heaven. Unknowingly, Locke drove the car to Sunset Avenue. He felt that with his current comprehensive strength, he would definitely get S-level treatment when he returned to the organization. Although Avidya was successfully killed last time, there were too many accidents. He knew very well that the killer sneaked in to kill people alone, and then cleared the traces quietly. This series of actions was so awesome. At the side of Sunset Boulevard number 18, Locke stopped the car and looked at the house surrounded by the cordon, and began to think in his mind, if it were him, how would he sneak in and kill people? First of all, the vehicle would not be parked so close, and secondly, to remove the traces, there must be medicine, brushes, towels and other items, so the killer must be carrying a backpack. Entering the villa, he will control Ferlin Alphonse as soon as possible. Then the killer must have observed Ferlin Alphonse's daily routine first and confirmed that he was the only one in the villa. This means that the killer should have observed this street for a long time the day before yesterday. If you want to observe and follow for a long time, the best place is naturally in the car. Locke subconsciously looked at the rearview mirror and observed the cars parked on both sides of the road. Suddenly, his expression froze. There was a car with people more than 10 meters behind him to the right. he was nervous and immediately shifted gears and stepped on the gas to leave. Unexpectedly, the car started and followed immediately. It was a black Saab class. Locke instantly thought of the CIA. Damn, the CIA is not stupid. They know to come here to follow at night. Knowing that the CIA was behind him, Locke was not panicked at all, but rather a little excited. For L4's driving skills, the CIA would have to block all roads in advance to catch him. Damn, these bastards are not stupid. They should be waiting for the killer to come back to the scene. Thinking that he was the killer, at an intersection, Locke stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, drifted through the corner, and quickly turned into another road. The Saab was no longer behind the car. Just as he was about to drive to the Trove subway entrance to change cars, there was a sudden burst of gunfire in front. Chapter 97. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the past, Locke would have stayed away, but he was inexplicably excited tonight, and he guessed what happened at the place of the gunfight. Since the CIA could fish at the crime scene at 18, Sunset Boulevard, there must be ambushes at the residences of other secret witnesses in Los Angeles. However, it seems that this killer is not very smart. He killed the retired scavenger, and the CIA may not be able to figure out what he wants to do, but he killed Ferlin Alphonse yesterday. Didn't he expose his purpose? The CIA will definitely evacuate all the secret witnesses in Los Angeles, but it seems that the CIA did not do so, but used other secret witnesses as bait. Why didn't they take a break for a while and act immediately? This is too disrespectful of the CIA. Do you really think the world's #1 intelligence organization is stupid? With doubts, Locke turned off all the lights of the car and drove quickly towards the place of the gunfight. From a distance, he saw a bunch of FBI cars blocking the road. He hurriedly drove the car into the parking space on the side of the road and turned off the engine immediately. Police lights flashed, illuminating the sky, and FBI cars kept gathering here. The CIA had no law enforcement power in the United States, so the FBI was the main force of the operation. This was a big operation. The CIA and the FBI had set up a dragnet. How could this killer not be eye-catching at all? Suddenly, Locke saw a light in the rearview mirror again, and hurriedly laid down the seat. Soon, a black Subaru drove over, which was the car that had just chased him. After the Subaru drove over, Locke readjusted the seat and looked at the place where the gunfight took place with regret. The killer was probably in danger tonight. The horror of the killer lies between light and darkness. The killer who hides in the dark and is not discovered is the terrifying killer. Once discovered and surrounded, no matter how powerful the killer is, facing a law enforcement agency that is armed to the teeth dozens of times, he can only fail. Although Locke respected the killer's behavior of killing the scumbag Ferlin Alphonse, he had no intention of going over to save him. He just came to see out of curiosity. Just as he was about to get out of the way, there was a scream and panic in front of him. A Cadillac Escalade suddenly accelerated towards this side, and the FBI behind him fired wildly at the Cadillac Escalade. Damn, he escaped. Locke reacted instantly. He was indeed a killer comparable to the S-level talents in the organization. He immediately started the car, turned around and drove into the opposite road. In an instant, he became an ordinary citizen driving on the road. Soon, the Cadillac Escalade drove towards him at a high speed. Swish. The Cadillac Escalade drove past Cadillac at lightning speed. At the moment when the two cars met, Cadillac turned his head in advance and glanced through the windshield. It was pitch black inside. He was stunned for a moment before he realized that it was a black man. No wonder he fell into the trap. Suddenly, he found that the Cadillac Escalade was not driving steadily. This guy was injured. At this time, the FBI car behind was also catching up, and Locke hesitated immediately. He now had two choices: either speed up and catch up, or drive normally and let the FBI car overtake him. He would never enter the FBI's encirclement to save people, but in this situation, bang. 60 meters ahead, the Escalade crashed heavily on the roadside, breaking two trees in succession before stopping. Fuck. Locke frowned and glanced at the FBI convoy in the rearview mirror, which was less than 200 meters away from him. Locke made a decision instantly, stepped on the 6th gear accelerator to the bottom, and the 1.5 naturally aspirated engine roared instantly. He firmly grasped the steering wheel and rushed towards the Escalade in front, instantly widening the distance with the FBI. In the blink of an eye, Locke parked the car next to the Escalade. He ran out of the car quickly, rushed to the side of the Escalade, and pulled the door, which was actually opened by him. The black killer had collapsed on the steering wheel airbag. He moved his right hand and a sharp scalpel appeared in his hand. He cut the seatbelt directly and dragged the killer out. He turned his head and looked to the right. The FBI car was less than 50 meters away from them. His heartbeat suddenly accelerated and his hormones soared. Locke quickly threw the killer into the back seat of the Cruise and got into the driver's seat again. He didn't care about fastening his seatbelt. He stepped on the accelerator in sixth gear again and stepped on the brake with his left foot. In the rearview mirror, the FBI agents stretched their guns out of the window, ready to shoot him. Chirp. The tires turned desperately, and black smoke rose in an instant, submerging the entire car, and a strong smell of rubber rushed into the car. Locke released the brake with his right foot, and the Cruise was ejected instantly, and then it was visible to the naked eye that the FBI car was left behind again. 10 minutes later, Locke finally got rid of the FBI's pursuit that he began to slow down and drive normally. Just now, he used L4's driving skills to the extreme, and rushed out of the FBI's various blockades. If Cruise hadn't been born with deficiencies, he might not have taken so long. However, this kind of reckless rush was really cool and exciting. At 18, Sunset Avenue, both sides of the street were quiet. Locke stood at the window on the second floor and observed for a long time. Now he could only vaguely hear the sound of sirens coming from a distance, and there was also the roar of helicopters in the air. It can be imagined that the CIA and FBI must be searching the whole city now. The killer was rescued in front of them, and the FBI supervisors on the scene are probably scolded. He was definitely pulling teeth from the tiger's mouth tonight. The CIA and FBI people probably never dreamed that he would hide the killer here. The Western people's thinking logic is as simple as a naked woman in front of the Chinese strategy with a history of 5,000 years. They also won't read Gulong's novels, and they will never know that the saying that the most dangerous place is the safest place is really true. The bedroom still exudes the fishy smell left by Furlan Alphonse. The room is dark, and the street lights shine in through the gaps in the curtains. If the police department came, they might find something unusual here, because the curtains in this room were not drawn before. The black killer was thrown on Furlan Alphonse's bed by Locke. Locke just stopped his bleeding and did not treat him immediately. The premise of his rescue is to ensure his own safety first, so he has to make sure that this place is safe enough before taking the next step. I have to say that this guy is really lucky. He is a black man with thick skin and flesh. He was shot 4 times, but he was able to rob a car and escape with an FBI uniform. Only the shot in the stomach was fatal, causing him to bleed a lot. The other 3 shots were penetrating gunshot wounds. One was on the left shoulder blade, the other on the left arm, and the last one was on the outside of the thigh. Fortunately, it was not the inside, otherwise he would have been game over long ago. Locke left the window and slowly walked to the bedside, but he did not walk over immediately. Instead, he stood on the bed and stared at the black killer on the bed with a cold expression. His scavenger's intuition made him feel creepy. 3 minutes later, he said, "If you can save yourself, I will leave." The black killer on the bed was still motionless as if he was dead. Locke smiled coldly and turned around to leave. The black killer suddenly opened his eyes. "You saved me, why?" Chapter 98. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Locke's heart tightened. He was familiar with this look. He was indeed a dangerous guy. Even though he was seriously injured and lying on the bed, this guy's eyes were still calm. There was no suspicion, no panic, no weakness, no disguise, only calmness, just like a black mamba foraging on the African grassland. Locke said calmly, "Because you killed Furlan Alphonse?" The black killer asked, "Do you want to kill him too?" He felt a trace of the same kind of breath from Locke. Locke shrugged. "So, can you heal yourself?" "If you can, I'll leave now." "Don't worry, the CIA and the FBI shouldn't be able to find this place in a short time. But you'd better not stay here for more than 6 hours." That as he said, he was ready to leave. Locke knew how tenacious the vitality of monsters of this level was. They usually had the ability to save themselves. As long as the bleeding stopped, they would never die, and people of this type would not easily trust anyone, let alone when they were injured. The black killer spoke again, "Are you a doctor?" Locke's eyes narrowed. When he cut the seat belt with a scalpel, this guy woke up. He felt a chill on his back instantly, and a picture flashed through his mind. If he had leaned over the killer to unfasten the seatbelt, this guy might have cut his throat. Locke immediately realized the problem. As a scavenger, he faced corpses more often and had never faced an S-level killer directly. He lacked vigilance against monsters of this level. He immediately became alert and replied, "I guess so." The black killer stared at Locke and said sincerely, "I need your help. The shot in the abdomen injured my intestines, and I can't sew it up myself. Thank you very much for saving me this time. I can help you kill 2 people. Make a request and give a reward." Straightforward. Locke hesitated for a moment, frowned and said, "If the intestines are really injured, it will cause abdominal infection, and I don't have anesthesia." The black killer said gently, "It doesn't matter, you just need to take out the bullet and sew the intestines. Don't worry, keep my word. As long as the person you ask me to kill is not the President of the United States, I will definitely complete the task for you." It turned out that this guy was called Pask. Locke knew why the killer reported his name, probably to gain his trust. He hesitated for a moment and nodded, "Okay." Logically, realizing the danger of this guy, according to Locke's character, he would leave. However, just realizing that he almost died when he saved someone before, he was actually timid, which made him very ashamed. So, he decided to face this guy head-on. He wanted to see how big the gap between him and S-level talents was now. Locke stood by the bed, turned his right hand, and a titanium alloy scalpel appeared in his hand. He cut off the tourniquet that had been bandaged before, separated the killer's clothes, and soon saw the muzzle of the gun, which was bleeding. The muzzle of the gun was on the upper left side of the belly button on the left side of the abdomen, the size of a little finger. Fortunately, this shot should be a 9mm bullet fired by Glock G18. If it was shot by Scar or 416 Hong Kong dollars, it would definitely be dead long ago. Locke turned his head to look at Pask, indicating that he was going to start. "Please." Pask's eyes were still very calm, just like inviting Locke to enjoy a meal, but there were a few more emotions in his eyes. He said curiously, "Your knife hiding skills are very powerful, a bit like a Japanese ninja. I didn't even find out where the knife came out." It seems that although he is curious, he is not surprised. At their level, who doesn't have some unique skills? Locke did not respond, but looked down at the wound. Fortunately, he didn't see the scalpel appear out of thin air before he came. The novel was taken from the Rawlers website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. He cut the knife to the wound, and a smooth and straight incision appeared with his hand. 10 minutes later, Locke sutured the wound and was a little shocked. Although the bullet injured the intestines, the amount of bleeding inside was not large, and the intestines were also very clean, not as dirty as imagined. What does this mean? Before the operation, Pask had emptied his intestines to prevent the possibility of abdominal contamination caused by a gunshot in the abdomen. Is this the quality of a top killer? In addition, he should have other ways to replenish his physical energy and stay energetic, otherwise he would not have been able to hold on to an empty stomach until now. He is indeed a monster. After Locke sewed up the wound, he looked at Pask. "Okay, do you need me to sew up the other 3 wounds?" Spike's expression was still calm, but his forehead was covered with dense beads of sweat, and his lips were a little pale, finally revealing some weakness. He nodded and said, "Thank you for your trouble. I didn't expect you to be a doctor. Not only do you have a scalpel, but you also have a needle and thread for suturing, and your technique is so skillful. It is really my luck to meet you." It took another 3 minutes for Locke to sew up the other 3 penetrating wounds, and reminded him, "You'd better disinfect it later, otherwise there is a high probability of infection." Spike raised his hand and patted Locke's hand gratefully. Thank you so much. Can you tell me who you want to kill?" What do you mean by this?" There was a needle as thin as a hair on the back of Locke's hand. If he had sharp observation skills, he might not have found it. He stared at Spike with cold eyes, feeling lucky in his heart. Spike showed a relaxed smile on his face. Don't worry, it's just anesthesia. I'm really grateful that you saved me. I thought I would die today, but I didn't expect that I could escape from the joint pursuit of the CIA and the FBI. Can you tell me now, who are you? Locke's face was gloomy as water, and he ignored him, silently calculating in his heart. Seeing Locke didn't speak, Spike frowned and asked, Are you Harvey's man? What does he want from me? Only Godwin knows the list of the drip plan, and it's useless for him to find me. Locke has realized that Spike is not the awakened agent in the CIA he imagined, nor is he a chivalrous knight who enforces justice. He asked, Why did you kill Ferlin Alphonse? Spike looked at Locke in confusion. Godwin is chasing him a little too closely. I want to warn him. Who are you working for? Damn, it turns out that it's just a dog-eat-dog fight within the CIA. He thought this guy was a hero who got rid of harm for the people, and was influenced by him to decide to be a chivalrous knight. Damn, you deceived his feelings. Locke said calmly, It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is that I thought you killed Ferlin Alphonse for justice, so I saved you, but it turned out not to be. Spike was stunned for a moment, showing a mouth full of white eyes, and smiled. I'm sorry to disappoint you. But no matter what the reason is, he's dead, isn't he? Don't worry, I will keep my promise. Tell me 2 names and I will help you kill them. I roughly guess who you are. He stared at Locke with scrutiny. You want to recruit me, right? The legendary doctor. Unfortunately, you are not qualified, you know nothing about me. Locke looked at Spike in surprise. This guy actually thought he was a doctor. Well, he should have seen that he was disguised, and he had superb medical skills. It seems that he is indeed easy to be misunderstood. Locke smiled lightly, and in Spike's shocked eyes, he raised the hand that was pricked with needles. Mr. Spike, I want to tell you a story. There is a fable in ancient China called Mr. Dongua and the Wolf. Chapter 99. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Spike's expression froze instantly, staring at Locke in disbelief. How can you move? Locke ignored him and said to himself, One day, Mr. Dongua saved a wolf that was being chased by a hunter. After the hunter left, the wolf wanted to eat Mr. Dongua to fill his stomach. Mr. Spike, do you think we are like Mr. Dongua and the wolf in this fable? And how Jian and the old lady? Sorry, I got it wrong. Just when Locke was laughing inexplicably, Spike suddenly raised his intact right hand and stabbed Locke's neck. He didn't know when a 10-centimeter long short blade appeared in his hand, but he just sat up and fell back to the bed. He tried again, but found that he couldn't move at all. Locke kept watching Spike's performance quietly, and the situation between the two sides reversed instantly. He was secretly complaining in his heart, worthy of being a monster. This physique is too awesome, and he can even sit up. Damn, I searched him before. Why is there a needle and a short blade on this guy? Does he have a space? Spike finally lost his calmness at this moment. He looked fierce, like a wolf that was ready to eat people. He stared at Locke fiercely and asked, What did you do to me? Locke smiled and said, I am a doctor after all. How can I let a patient have surgery without anesthesia? So, when I opened the abdomen just now, I gave you some anesthetic. When his hand was sorting out Spike's intestines in his stomach, the anesthetic was released. At that time, Spike was in a state of neurological disorder due to pain and did not notice it. Having a storage space is awesome. It can kill people without being seen. Spike stared at Locke coldly, and his expression slowly regained calmness. Okay, doctor, you win. I agree to your recruitment, but I can only serve you for 1 year. I have my own career. Locke was not in a hurry to clarify and was happy to be misunderstood. Whether Spike was pretending to be submissive or trying to buy time for the anesthesia to wear off, he had already made a decision in his heart. The story had already been told, so how could he let the wolf live? He flipped his hand, and a prepared truth serum appeared in his hand, which was directly inserted into Spike's thigh. Locke smiled and said, Mr. Spike, please introduce yourself. As you said, I don't know you. Now we can get to know each other. Maybe I can support your career. Spike stared at Locke blankly, with a flash of murderous intent in his eyes. He asked, "What did you inject me?" Locke spread his hands and said frankly, "The previous anesthetic was just to relieve your pain. In view of your hostility just now, in order to ensure my safety, I had to increase the dose. You can understand it." He walked to the living room and moved the chair that Tom Williams had sat on during the day. After sitting down, he urged, "Mr. Spike, this should not be your real name, but this is not the point. Let's start quickly. We don't have enough time. We have to move later." If Spike understood Chinese, the words, "people have to bow their heads under the eaves," should have flashed in his mind at this moment. Well, or it would be more appropriate to say that I am the fish at the mercy of others. He stared at the back of Locke's hand and asked in a cold voice, "Why is the flying needle ineffective against you?" This hand, which was improved from the needle-blowing magic skill of his tribe, is a hidden skill that made him famous. He has never been exposed to anyone and has never failed. Locke shook the flying needle on the back of his hand and laughed. "So it's called flying needle, it's amazing." Two corpses flashed through his mind, one was the retired CIA scavenger, and the other was Ferlin Alphonse, who was tied to a chair. The latter was probably tied to cover up. Locke rolled up his sleeves and pulled the zipper on his wrist. "It's very simple, because I was wearing gloves, your flying needle didn't pierce my skin." It was indeed lucky, but if it wasn't for this pair of gloves, how could he open the abdomen and remove the intestines without wearing latex gloves? Spike stared at the imitation leather gloves on Locke's hands. He didn't even notice that this guy was wearing gloves. It should be because of the previous breakout that consumed too much energy and the injury, which weakened his observation ability. It turned out that the anesthesia for the flying needle was not ineffective. He was confident again. Next time, he just needed to shoot the skin. He pondered for a moment and said slowly, "My original name is not Spike. It seems to be Tuwa or Siwa. It's been too long and I forgot it. But Spike is indeed one of my names. I was born in a tribe in northern Cameroon, Africa. Although I have many names, I only have one code name in the CIA. As a member of the dark world, he believes in his own judgment, so he has recognized Locke is determined to be the doctor. He is good at disguise and has superb medical skills. There is no other person in the dark world except the doctor. He has no conflict of interest with the doctor. He has also heard about the doctor's style of doing things. He likes to recruit vicious people to create chaos, so he is very sure that the doctor saved him just to recruit him. After the logic is self-consistent, his vigilance gradually relaxed, because he knows that the doctor will not kill him, but needs him to serve him. He is valuable only when he is alive, so he wants to tell a little truth and gain the trust of the doctor. Unexpectedly, his mouth is getting looser and looser, and he tells all his resume and background along the way. He didn't realize that the trust that came from the bottom of his heart was the effect of the truth serum that Locke had just injected. Locke had already taken out a recorder from the storage space. Although his mental attribute is already 11, he is a real academic master with superb memory, but he knows that a good memory is not as good as a bad pen. Anyway, there is a storage space, and there is no fear that the recorder will be lost. Listening to Spike's story, Locke's expression became more and more serious, as if he had heard something extraordinary. At first, he just wanted to dig out the CIA Los Angeles secret witness information he had obtained from the retired scavenger from Spike, so that he could be a real knight who enforces justice in the future. According to Spike, he was born in a tribe in Cameroon, Africa. Because of his extraordinary talent and physical fitness better than his peers, he was abducted by the CIA at the age of 8 and sent to Botswana in northern South Africa. In Botswana, the CIA has a secret training camp where thousands of high-quality children like him who were captured from all over Africa gather. In this training camp, all African children receive modern education, various military training, various agent skills, and the customs of various African tribes. Watch American TV programs every night, plant the American dream, and brainwash to serve the United States. 15 years later, he was the only one left in the training camp. From then on, he had a code name, Sahara. However, the training camp was also closed due to the collapse of the Soviet Union. This was one of the many secret plans of the CIA to compete with the Soviet Union. called the raindrop plan. Raindrops fall on the ground, or soak into the ground, or flow into the river, and eventually disappear without a trace, so the CIA formulated this plan, selecting children with excellent physical and intellectual abilities from different races and ethnicities, and after rounds of cruel elimination, using the method of raising insects to cultivate the most powerful super agent, relying on the agent's innate advantages in skin color and race, he engages in agent activities in the region. Locke felt a little familiar when he heard it at first, and almost thought that the organization he was in his previous life was the CIA, but he denied this idea in an instant. Although his organization is also mysterious and powerful, cruel and cold-blooded, and also obtains talents through a cruel screening system, it is still different from the CIA's completely inhumane approach. For example, he survived and graduated from Spike. Locke knew that he was involved in most of the unrest in Africa. He was also the supporter behind the rebels in various regions and became the mastermind behind the CIA's control of Africa. However, as his experience grew, Spike's ambition and desire for power grew. He was no longer satisfied with just inciting the rebels to provoke disputes. He wanted to step into the foreground, take control of power and the army, and become the true king of Africa. Chapter 100. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Spike's idea was naturally wishful thinking. The CIA would never allow the agents it had trained to get out of control, and it did not want a strong government to appear in Africa. A chaotic and disordered Africa was in the interests of the United States. Once Spike came to the fore, the series of actions he had planned before might be exposed. The CIA could not bear such a risk, so the CIA implemented a plan to eliminate Spike, but Spike escaped, and after breaking up with the CIA, Spike realized how vain his dream of being the king of Africa was. The rebels who had once obeyed him betrayed him one after another. Without the funds and weapons supported by the United States, his status in the eyes of the rebels dropped greatly. In the end, there were very few people following Spike, and Spike became one of the many rebel militants in Africa. However, under the attack of the CIA and the African government forces, Spike's armed organization could not move forward, and his ambition to be the king of Africa soon disappeared. After escaping again, Spike realized that without the support of the United States, no matter how strong his military power was or how well he knew about Africa, he would not be able to make a difference in Africa, so he had to take the risk and come to the United States to negotiate with his immediate superior, CIA Assistant Director Godwin Bull, to seek Godwin's support. The Raindrop Project was led by Godwin Bull when he was the Special Agent in Charge, SAC, of the CIA. As soon as Spike arrived in the United States, his whereabouts were spotted by the Deputy Chief of Staff Harvey DeLong, another faction within the CIA. As a senior agent who had worked in Africa for more than 10 years, although Spike defected from the CIA, some people within the CIA wanted to continue recruiting him, because recruiting him was equivalent to controlling many rebels in Africa. So Harvey DeLong sent someone to contact Spike, and this scene was discovered by Godwin Bull. He thought Spike was going to surrender to Harvey DeLong. He was worried that the secret Spike held would be known by Harvey, so he started to hunt Spike again, because Spike had been active in Africa for a long time and was not familiar with the United States. He found the former CIA scavenger Love Hamill, who had worked with him before, for help during his escape. Love Hamill was once one of the instructors in the Botswana training camp. From Love Hamill, Spike knew that Godwin Bull was also responsible for the CIA's secret witness program, so he wanted to create some trouble for him and give him a warning. In order not to reveal his whereabouts, Spike let Love Hamill die peacefully. This led to the death of Ferlin Alphonse. However, the reason why this guy first found Ferlin Alphonse, in addition to warning Godwin Bull, was to get his money from Ferlin Alphonse. After all, it takes money to lead a team in Africa. As the biggest pimp in France, Ferlin Alphonse's billions of assets were confiscated by France, but he still had hundreds of millions of dollars in bearer bonds in UBS and Credit Suisse. In addition, there are some remnants left in Paris, and Spike also wants to take over and continue to make money for him. The CIA has always wanted to take the money for itself and treat it as something in its pocket. However, they are afraid of the consequences and still expect Ferlin Alphonse to provide more privacy for European politicians, so they dare not force him too much. However, according to the CIA's usual operation, when this guy is no longer useful, they will naturally receive the funds. the reason why Spike was surrounded tonight was just because he fell into Godwin Bowles' trap. Although he is black, he is not stupid enough to continue to kill the next secret witness in such a short time. It was almost 2 hours later when Spike finished everything. Looking at Spike, who was already in a state of confusion on the bed, Locke felt a little weak in his heart. He just wanted to know the information of several secret witnesses who were extremely evil, but compared with the other explosive material Spike told, this information was simply worthless. The virus that ravaged Africa, the military conflict between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of the Congo, the ethnic conflict in Côte d'Ivoire, the Chinese companies in Africa were attacked by rebels, the corruption of the United Nations in Africa, the mastermind behind the Somali pirates. Locke realized that if his identity was exposed tonight, the whole family of Locke might be in tatters. He took a deep breath, suppressed the panic in his heart and looked at Spike muttering to himself on the bed. His eyes were cold. Sure enough, people should not be too impulsive. Tonight, he took on such a hot potato. Once an organization like the CIA is targeted, it will definitely be like a maggot on the tarsal bone, and it will be difficult to get rid of it. Locke stood up and walked to Spike's side. Looking at this strong body like a black panther, he had to admit that this guy was really a monster. The king of Africa selected from more than 1,000 gifted African children, the top agent of the CIA, subversion, murder, poison, proficient in various firearms, fighting, wilderness survival, and driving airplanes and tanks, almost everything. And the flying needle he is good at is a hidden weapon improved by combining the blowing needle of the African tribe and the acupuncture of a Chinese traditional Chinese medicine master in South Africa. The flying needle is coated with various medicines unique to Africa, which can attack the enemy at a short distance, injure people invisibly, and make the enemy lose their mobility. Locke had to admit that if Spike was not seriously injured and he was not given special anesthetics, even with the blessing of the system, he might not be able to beat this guy. This guy is definitely the real king of agents. Spike's body is so durable and his vitality is so strong. His endurance is at least 15, and his strength and speed should also be 13. Locke put his hand on Spike's neck. Spike suddenly woke up a little, opened his eyes, and asked weakly, "Doctor, why did you kill me?" Crack! Locke exerted force on his hand, and Spike's neck twisted and he lost his life. He said lightly, "Because the fable of Mr. Dongwa and the wolf teaches us not to be Mr. Dongwa easily, and the wolf must die." After killing Spike, Locke carefully checked Spike's body again to prevent this guy from leaving any tricks. This time, several flying needles were found in his hair, which were indeed very similar to the needles used in Chinese acupuncture. As for the short blade in his hand, Locke hesitated for a while, but finally did not take it away. Leaving the short blade would make the CIA think that Spike was not tortured. After cleaning up all his traces, Locke took gasoline from Fairlawn Alphonse's car downstairs, poured most of it on Spike, and poured the rest all over the house. After making a delayed ignition device and observing that there was nothing unusual outside, he quickly rushed out of the villa and got into the cruise on the roadside. After seeing the firelight coming through the gap in the curtains, Locke started the car and slowly left.